Welcome back, U.S. history students. Today we are going to be looking at urbanization and the political machine. We've started a new learning target within Unit 1 now. We've moved on from the Industrial Revolution. We're focusing again on learning target 2. I want to keep this learning target in your minds, and it's that I can analyze the demographic changes occurring in the United States during the Industrial Revolution as a result of immigration and urbanization. And yesterday we looked at a lot of immigration. Who's coming over to the United States? From where are they coming? How are they getting there? And tomorrow in class, after you've watched this video, we're going to focus a lot about the immigrant experience. And we can't talk about the immigrant experience without talking about cities and urbanization. So let's remember quick and just quickly review. We have all these different immigrant groups coming over to the United States, mostly from Europe, but if we look at this red line down here, we have some Asian immigrants coming over as well. Now, the Chinese Exclusion Act and eventually the discrimination against Japanese immigrants as well tends to keep this line pretty low, but if we're looking at the different European countries that are coming over to the United States, we're looking right here, and we see Northern and Western Europe are typical WASP type immigrants, and their immigration peaking in about the 1880s and then sharply declining as we then have the rise of the Southern and Eastern European immigrants, those that are more heavily discriminated against and those that are really the focus of a lot of what we're going to be looking at now. So just remember that we have all these different immigrant groups coming over the United States, but the point to remember is that the U.S. population is exploding, and mostly immigrants are heading into the cities in search of jobs. So we have urbanization, and we can see that many immigrants are looking for jobs in the cities at this graph right here, or through this graph right here, rather. Starting in 1860, 1870, we have a humongous increase in the amount of Americans that are living in urban areas, the urban represented by the yellow here. Look back in 1800, less than 10%, or around 7-8% of Americans are living in urban areas, while the vast majority, 92-93%, are living in rural areas, living in the countryside, working on farms. And as cities begin to grow and as the Industrial Revolution really kicks off here and more jobs are available in the cities through factories and by other means, the population in cities explodes. By 1900, we're up to about 35 or 40%. If you look up until 1990, which is pretty astonishing, kind of level off that nearly 80% of Americans are living in an urban area. So we have a huge change in the urban populations in the United States right here during the Industrial Revolution. I mean, this is just skyrocketing into the early 1900s, and that's what we're going to be taking a look at. So why, again, do people want to move to the cities? Just like we've been saying, the Industrial Revolution. And it's not just immigrants. Citizens of the United States who have already been living here, they're heading into the urban areas too, and seeking new jobs caused by the Industrial Revolution. As you can imagine, that many people coming into one area at one time tends to cause some sort of overcrowding issues. You may have 12 or 13 adults sleeping in very small rooms. And these apartment buildings, as you guys can kind of see pictured back here on this picture, we refer to them as tenements or slums. And we're going to talk a lot about that in class coming up tomorrow. And as you can imagine, we have all these people cramming themselves into cities. They're living in really cramped conditions so bad that 1 out of every 10 infants are not making it out of infanthood. In fact, the likelihood of many children making out of childhood is pretty low because of a lot of the problems urbanization caused. And we have a ton created when you have this many people cramming into these small apartments and cramming into the cities. And we can actually illustrate this all by SpongeBob. We can have our urban problems here illustrated to us through various SpongeBob episodes. Water being a big issue, sanitation being an issue, fire, overcrowding, crime, and transportation. And we're going to talk about all of those in more depth in class, but just keep those on your radar and know that these are the 6 main problems that urbanization caused during this time, and we're going to see why these things were such a big problem for immigrants in class. So someone's got to come to the rescue, right? Someone's got to help the immigrants out during these tough times living in the cities and this rapid rate of urbanization. And we have these groups of people that we're going to refer to as political machines rising up and in a lot of ways assisting the immigrants and making the immigrant experience better. You may ask, what is a political machine? Is this something out of the Industrial Revolution, like some sort of new invention? Political machine is not a physical object. It's more of a political force or a group of individuals and that are really heavily influencing the government and at the same time helping immigrants, which sounds positive, but in reality, not the most positive of things. So it's really a political party within a city that organizes activities in a way that makes it very hard for them to lose office. They're definitely built from the ground up, meaning they have a lot of support from like the average common people, which in case in urban areas, especially in poor areas, tended to be immigrant groups. And these political machines, they would go into the cities and they would start doing favors for these immigrant groups. They may provide them some sort of charity, provide them with food, kind of like the philanthropists in the Industrial Revolution, like Rockefeller and Carnegie. And they're providing them with services that immigrants who are poor and new to this country may not get. In exchange for these services, the immigrants simply would oftentimes vote for the members of this political machine or this political party. Many times the political machine would try and figure out ways and would successfully figure out how to have immigrants vote more than once. Immigrants had nothing to lose. They're going to vote for anybody who's going to help them out because many of them are living such tough lives once they got to the United States. So immigrants are at the base of the political machine's voter force. And in exchange for really any sort of basic necessities, they're giving votes to the political machines. These political machines are headed by party bosses, as you can see in this political cartoon here, which is a great example of what a political machine did. We're handing out immunity from arrest in case for some immigrants or even wealthy people. Political machines were huge. Party bosses were taking high-profile jobs like mayors of city. Take the city of Chicago, for example. The mayor of the city of Chicago may have been the member of a political machine who would have been considered a party boss. The most famous of these political machines, was called Tammany Hall. And it was by far the most powerful political machine in all of the United States and was located in New York City. And it was headed up by a man with maybe the greatest name in all of U.S. history. His name was Boss Tweed. I've always said that if I were ever to quit teaching, I would definitely take the name Boss Tweed as my rap name and drop a mixtape. I think my album cover would probably look a little bit something like this. So if you ever see that I've quit teaching, just know that I may have started a rap career. So Boss Tweed, as he headed the Tammany Hall political machine, and many other party bosses, they'd engage in activity and use this concept of grafts that we're going to call illegal use of political influence for personal gain. So they'd promise all of these things to immigrants. They'd get the votes, they'd get into office, and once they were so big and powerful, they could really bend the rules and do a lot of illegal things while they were in the government. And that came in the form of grafts. What they would do is they would use construction projects, such as in the case of Boss Tweed and Tammany Hall. They were building a courthouse that was supposed to cost $3 million, but they were able to hire construction companies that they were friendly with and overcharge the taxpayers up to $13 million. And much of that money went into the pockets of Boss Tweed and the members of his political machine. So he was able to upcharge them $10 million, which at the time is a huge amount of money. Remember, $10 million is a lot today, but it is a ton back then. And these political machines and these party bosses, they had the influence and they engaged in this concept of grafts to line their pockets with money, line their friends' pockets with money, and keep themselves in power, which made it really hard to get them out of office. So that's all we have for this video today, class. Hope you enjoyed this portion of it. And we will cover urbanization, political machines. We'll clear everything up in class and get way more in depth on the immigrant experience in cities tomorrow. Thanks for watching.